Okay, so we are starting the second Whybut at the CCC, and Whybut is what have you been up to, where we ask local Asheville area artists what they have been up to. And especially over the past year, considering being in the wake of Hurricane Helene and its impact. So my first artist tonight is Molly Sawyer.
Hello, Claire. Hi. Thanks everybody for coming.
So
if anyone's in Zoom world, thank you for being here.
I'm actually really excited to get to know you a little bit better too, because I've been a fan of your work for a while.
Yeah, just like my dog. That's my fan, but yeah. Well, I'm glad to be here. This is my first time in your one, and
Diana's doing something.
It.
That's fine. Leave it like that, Diana. It is. Yeah. Thank you for getting rid of the little weird things that were on it, though. So, just I would like to spend just a couple of moments kind of putting you in context as far as what you do, your relationship within the Asheville community and beyond, nationally, internationally, and any of the above. And then just over the past year, how you've dealt with continuing to work after the hurricane and its impact. So just kind of talk a little bit about who you.
Well, I'm Molly Sawyer. I'm a visual artist, a sculptor, and an installation artist. I work with watercolor, doing abstract painting as well, and I often combine all three of those genres in just to see what happens with the work. So I've been in Asheville now I'm really bad with numbers, so I think it's about 12 years, but I'm not sure. Yeah, it's been a while.
Where did you come from before that?
Originally, I'm from Atlanta, but I moved here with my husband Alex from New York.
Yeah.
So we were there I was there for 8 years. He's from that area originally. So
so and then you moved back south again.
We moved back south, figured it was time we went from Manhattan to New Jersey to Jersey City. And then from Jersey City, it was time to leave Jersey City. So Asheville, my family is still in Atlanta, and Asheville seemed like a really great environment. To be in, and you knew close enough.
You knew about the art scene here, and
I loosely knew about it. Honestly, I mean, it was one of those. Okay, let's go. Kind of.
Okay, so then you discovered it kind of unfolded that there was a lot going on here.
Yeah, and it's really interesting and amazing and wonderful that the art scene, the arts environment, the contemporary art scene has really grown since we've been here. There's music, there's always been music coming through, but my background is originally starting in clay and then moving, and I also have an extensive fiber background, and so bringing those two elements to this area that is so steeped in craft culture was an interesting experience. But then at the same time, since we've been here, Penland, as like the fine craft has risen, but I've moved away from craft as a focus. I still bring it into my work with
but all your skills, your craft skills are in there.
Absolutely. But I feel like Asheville has evolved in music and dance and there are organizations like Revolve that really have given opportunities for artists who don't who aren't really the run-of-the-mill gallery ilk,
Right.
we'll say.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
So,
know. I'm really happy to have places
yeah,
like Revolve for that reason
yeah,
too.
yeah.
So, and you have a studio, do you have a studio based at your home?
I have a studio in the Film Mechanic in the River Arts
Okay,
District.
so that leads on to how you were
Yeah,
impacted by the
yeah.
storm, right?
You know, I was telling Diana earlier that I was struck by lightning about 15 years ago, maybe, and how I have weird things happen around me, but also I think that because of that, certain lucky things happen to
Right.
me, and I happen to be very lucky through the hurricane where my studio was completely unaffected. I was in the 20% of the 80, and my home was okay, and the car, no trees fell on us, and
Right, because film mechanics just that little bit
it's just
further
a
up the
little bit up,
hill.
and they say out of the 100%, that 80% was lost, 20%, and now it's called the Upper District. My studio is on the third floor of that building, and there was water in the basement. I don't know if it was 4, 5, 6 feet, but I was high enough up that when we snuck back into the building, to get things out because we didn't know when we were gonna be allowed back in. It was really strange because the river was still high and it was chaos everywhere. And we went into my studio and it was this calm, quiet space, exactly the way that I had left it
That's
before
eerie.
this insanity took place. Yeah. So that kind of, the direct impact on my life or on home, um, I didn't suffer from that. I lost some artwork with Tiger
Oh, because it was
Gallery. Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Going there.
But my role, because I wanted to help, I couldn't help with the cleanup because my health issues. I have had I've had a brain tumor. I've had breast cancer multiple times,
Wow.
and I didn't feel that it was safe for me to go into the cleanup environment. So I did a lot of other volunteer work to help, in whatever way I can.
Wow.
But I also have had to really resist getting my hands onto things that I was finding that were washed up to bring it into my work. Because again, so many toxins, there's so many toxins that came through or are still coming through that I just, there's certain want and need.
Yeah,
Like,
no,
to go,
I
okay, stop,
understand. I
stop. Yeah.
understand that
I'm not very
completely.
disciplined either, so to stop myself from
Right,
collecting
because
more
it could be
was,
just like incredible to find those
yeah.
pieces. And I'm sure there's so many artists that have done that,
Oh, they have it.
salvaged all kinds of things to use with their work.
Yeah.
So it's happening.
It is happening. I mean,
But
it's out
yeah.
there. And I think there's even people in the lower part of the district who lost work that they found and were able to clean off. It's still out there, and that's, hopefully it'll air out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So beyond Asheville, you show in galleries outside of Asheville as well.
well, I am let's see. I've shown in galleries over time. Right now, I'm not with any one particular gallery. I have some sculptures in a gallery downtown here in Asheville. But I'm primarily an independent manager of self and of my own work. I do currently have a solo exhibit at the Spartanburg Art Museum.
Yes, I saw
So-
something about
So
that.
the
Yeah.
image that's up on the screen now is one of the, it's a panoramic from one of the areas of the museum.
Yeah, well, let's
It's
take us
pretty.
through your images and then go ahead and just
Okay. Yeah, I'll just
talk
tell
to us
you a
about
little
what
bit
you're
about-
doing, and anyone's welcome to ask questions.
Yeah, I'll
as
just
we
tell
go
you
along.
how the show developed.
Yeah.
I was, let's see, it came out of 3 different residencies, all done
Mhm.
within the past 12 to 15 months. So it was a lot to do. The residencies, I approached them with as just complete experimental, without a lot of planning
Mhm.
beforehand. So I had applied to, you throw the net out really wide, and I got one, and then I got two, but it turned out that the first one I had that I got for May of last year, 2024, was in Wyoming, northern Wyoming, at Gentile Foundation. And that's where I had done my first residency, 8 or 9 years ago. And so I said, okay, yeah, I'll come out, and, a beautiful environment, and adventure in mark making and working really large, because they're large, it's big sky country. So
Mhm.
it
Nice.
really helped. And the studio was big. So I was really able to open up. Um, and then I did a second, well, while I was planning for that residency, even without planning, I got a call from another of the residencies, and they said, hey, we want you to come, but it's not a month that that you designated that you're available. But it was a competitive one. And so I said yes, because
Mhm.
that's what you do. You say
Mhm.
yes. So between the end of May and the beginning of August, I had a complete turnaround. A lot of family events took place also. And then I hopped on a plane and I went out to Willapa Bay, which was in southern Washington,
Mhm.
way off on a peninsula
Oh, nice.
just above Astoria, in the area where they shot Goonies.
Mhm.
When you see the sail of the ship come out from the rocks,
Mhm.
and so I was right down there. Um, and that was also beautiful. But in those two residencies, I found that I explored two completely different bodies of work. Because when I work really fast and start
Mhm.
making a big mess and work on numerous things at the same time. And so I contacted Revolve here in Asheville and Colby Caldwell, and he has the First Draft Residency series,
Right. Yeah.
which I did many years ago also, and said, "Hey, I've." At that point, I also solidified a solo show at Reese Museum at ETSU for January of 2026. So I said to Colby, "Hey, I've got these two bodies of work. I don't know how they come together. Can I be part of the residency to explore what happens, to see how they work together?" And so last February, I did the month-long journey there. And so
Mhm.
the show that's happening right now in Spartanburg is the result of all of that
Okay.
process, right? I was coming around with that long
Okay.
story.
Yeah, yeah.
So I've started with just one image of that. I'm sorry, did I move it too fast?
That's fine.
So mainly I'm
Yep.
showing studio images from the
Mhm.
different residencies. And many of these are panoramics or widescreen, so they're squashed. But this was a very large studio, and it's just to show how I was working with watercolor in larger format, and also bringing in different materials. And so
Yeah,
digging up
it has a
soil.
sculptural sense, even though you're working
Can we
with
I don't know if
paint.
I can zoom in on this thing, but
Either.
they were, and I was trying to a lot of the work, the watercolor work I've done is it feels very tight and
Mm.
controlled, because though I'm cutting things up and sewing them back together, when you stitch, you're not completely like all over the place. You have to
Mm.
have a place where you're putting the needle. And so once I got out to Gentile, I really wanted to feel like, how can I open up with this
Mhm.
medium? And so I ended up doing a lot of work. It was all on the floor and splattered. And so these are very neat looking studio shots, but I'm really actually pretty messy when working. Here's idea of, this is mainly how the space was when I was working. I like to keep the lights off and work with
Nice.
natural light in there. So now I'm gonna move on. I have 3 pictures of Willapa Bay, which is the second residency that I did. And so now these are completely different. It is involving watercolor, but it's sewing pattern paper. And my material, I pick things up, I find things, and then I incorporate them into my work. And so during the time between residencies, I had found these sewing patterns at a scrap place, and I just stuck them in my bag and took them out to the West Coast, thinking, well, these travel easily because it just squashes in your bag. And when I opened them up, I realized that people had already used them, so they were already cut and they already pinned and they were already taped, and they were like,
So you had to work with that.
it was so like, wow, I just felt so, I was so excited, but also like I felt like it was a little window into different people's lives.
Yeah.
And it made you think, well, what, who was making the stuff? Who were they making it for? A lot of children's clothing were there.
Interesting.
So I started playing with that, but at the same time, this is the first time my work has really been figure based or turned out, surprised me as figurative.
Yeah.
Except for when I was doing
Well,
sculpture.
it's yeah, I mean it's forms for the figure.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
inherent in the
Exactly.
material.
Yeah. So, I mean, of course, each material that I work with, I think, wow, I could just do so much more exploration, but then I get excited about the next material and want to bring that in. So, let's see.
Well, that's
And
a really
again, here I'm
interesting.
bringing some netting that I found in one of the old shacks on the property that had
Oh, nice.
so these were just old
That's
fishing
serendipitous.
nets, and I ended up, there was an old guy who would come over and was friends with the founder, and he came over twice to show me how to repair, like the actual way to true way to repair fishing nets, which I haven't, I videoed it so I could refer to it, but and then the piece on the right is it's the beginning of a much bigger piece that's at the Spartanburg Art Museum now, which we'll see in a bit. This is just a one of the larger pieces and the layering process that I go through to attain the end. So now I'm hopping over to First Draft Residency here in Asheville, and it's a very large space, but I just put this image up to show, here's the empty space, or only a portion of the empty space. You've been there and you know it's enormous. And this is brown paper, corrugated paper, that again is another example of material that I just pick up. And it was the wrapping for the lamp post that was installed in the area next to my studio building, between the Radical Hotel and the new old hotel that they did, and my studio. So it was just there on the flatbed, and I said to the guy, "What are you doing with it?" And he's like, "I'm throwing it away." I'm like, yeah. So
And you're like, no, you're
well,
not.
I've been holding on to this for a few years because I needed a space big enough to really explore putting these things to building this thing that you'll see later that's also showing at the museum. This is an image by a dear friend of mine who happens to be here tonight, Star, a wonderful photographer, Star Sarajevo. And I just brought it in here to show a number of the sewing pattern works that are behind me, and to also show the scale. I don't know if you're pointing over here, over there, to show the scale of the space, which is pretty enormous space. So the brown paper began to turn into this, which I worked on the floor. I tend to always work on the floor, it seems like, killing my back. But this is all paint, and so it ends up looking like corrugated metal, but it's all just painted paper. And when we installed it, it's about 14 feet in height. And so there was you know, all an experiment. But again, this is an image from Stars, and it's to show that this is kind of toward the end of the residency and how much I filled the space, and also how big the space is. This, you can see how I'm bringing in materials from the different residencies that I did. And now I'm going to move on and say that this piece, which I did at Gentel, is part of a current show at the Asheville Mall. And
Oh, right.
and
I heard they're showing things at the mall.
yeah, it's this
There's an
group.
art program.
Yeah, I don't
That's
know if they're
great.
Revolve or they're just called Mall Rats, which is
Great.
perfect. And so it's the theme for this go around was, where do we come together, or where do we get together? Where do we come together?
Mhm.
And so these are one of my portals, and I call it Sunrise. And
Mhm.
so I think, where do we come together is under the sun.
Right.
And that's through January. So
Right.
anybody can, it's just out in the mall. So anyone can go and see it. I also have a study, an untitled study that is at the Radical Hotel
Mhm.
they have a small gallery next to the restaurant there. And so I just decided to explore this one. And it's pink because the wall is pink, not
Mhm.
because
Okay.
that's just kind of how we get. Okay. This is now we're kind of coming to the end, so because I want to make sure that Robert and Kurt have enough time. I'm sorry, Roger. Excuse me, Roger. So these are just two more images from the Spartanburg Art Museum. So
It's a nice space.
it's a
I like the
beautiful
way
space.
that the work is spread out through the space.
Throughout through it, it really is, it's a beautiful space to show in. The light, it's not direct light coming in. It's a really simple design, but it's and it's such an honor to see um all of your work together at once. And there are 30 in the museum. There are 4 galleries, and it's one large space with sort of galleries within it. And I've curated it so that as the viewer moves through, it's a bit of a narrative as they move through. And it's looking at it, both the ominous nature of our presence in the world, along with playfulness and some, you know, a little bit of whimsy. And but there are 32 pieces in this full show, and about 9 of those are large scale sculptural installations, and a number of them are, you know what? I told you I'd show you sailcloth, but it's not here. Somehow these other images haven't gotten here. So, but if you go to my Instagram at ML Sawyer Art, they are on there. Here's the IT guy. So,
You can actually screen
but-
share your Instagram if you want to.
There is also there's a full catalog online of this exhibition. So all of the images are shown there. The piece that I did at Revolve, the big 14-footer, it was stapled up to the wall at Revolve, but because it was just a work in progress, I pretty much finished everything in there to say I'm 80% done and I could do 20% more, and that's what I did. So when I finished that piece, I took it off the wall. I treated the back as a completely separate piece from the front. So all of the different panels on one side are painted in the variegated way that you saw, but on the back side, they are a glossy black and a kind of lime chartreuse. So they're completely different. And now
it's reversible.
and it is reversible. And in the museum, it's hung. It's one of the suspended pieces, so that you can move around the piece and experience 2 different pieces.
Fabulous.
And so
That's cool.
yeah.
Does anyone have any questions?
Where do you?
Thank you.
Where?
Oh wait, okay, here are some of the installations. we, they come
Thanks, tech
apart.
guy.
Roger, they come apart, and
Hmm.
so some things like a lot of the fiber, is stored in just big garbage bags. And this is baling twine, so it's oiled, and so it doesn't have any problems with getting moldy or anything like that, is what I found. I've also found that I'm allergic to it.
Oh, no.
And so it was interesting to get halfway through the 50,000 yards of arm knitting that I did all myself to find that, like, why can't I breathe? What's going on here?
So it affects your
And-
respiratory.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
And so, but I went ahead and finished it anyway because I didn't want to waste my time,
Right.
right? So, I'll run through these fast. So this is, Arbor Vitae. It's also a 14-foot. It's driftwood, and
That's
I
beautiful.
can't zoom in, but it's different found objects. So it's piano wire, and then
Hmm.
these little red plaster beads that I found at Scrounger's Paradise, which is here in Asheville,
Yes.
run by Mark
Yes.
Oliveri, who is
Mhm.
also
I've
an
been
artist in his own right. Thanks.
there.
Do you know
Um,
Martin Perrier?
Yes, he's one of my, one of
Okay.
my, yeah. Yeah. This is knit fiber, finger knit and arm knit. And then another artist, Frances Dominguez, here in Asheville, she had these wooden like arches for like old covered wagons, is what we think they are.
Hmm.
And so
Wow.
what I've done is I pulled them together so the tension is really pulled together, and that's what's giving us our different senses of verticality and then tension. So I like to, when I find materials, I like to try to think about and identify their intrinsic value or force that they have and try to bring that
Yeah, and
into
it seems
the
you have
narrative
a
of the
very physical relationship with your materials.
do.
And
I
I
do.
respond to that, you know, as a movement
Yes,
artist
yeah, that,
who
yeah.
also works with materials. I
Mhm.
really, really relate
Yeah.
to your work in that way.
Yes, well, I've seen you work with some of those materials, and it's really fun. Oh,
Hmm.
okay, here we go.
Here's
We
the
found
big
it.
one.
So here's the big one. So this is again Revolve, and I was allowed to get back in there for a few days to do some photography before I moved it down to the museum. So this is the front of the piece as suspended, and front back reversible. I say reverse and reverse. So
Yeah.
yeah, and this is Privacy Game. These are reeds for a privacy fence that I found on this in my neighborhood on the side of the road. So you know, I explored this while I was at Revolve also, and this is a piece that came out of there. And I'm playing with the idea of weaving along with, this is a fiber needle felted ball. So I'm trying to bring traditional materials and techniques into a contemporary
Beautiful.
viewing. So this is a picture that is a little light funny, but these are suspended rings, and they are all also knit by me. And the aluminum wire that I built the rings out of is cable that came from the utility companies, that as they would downed wired, as they were replacing all of the lines in Asheville, I would drive around and look for, you know, cable that was left. And then finally I talked to the guys as they were doing the work.
So
and they
the
just
whole
handed
thing
it
is
to me.
made out of that cable? Or
So
the structure.
the outer and the inner, well, the outer actually is made of the aluminum cable. The inner are made of barrel rings, like from old barrels. And then there's a mesh stretched over, and that's what holds that's the substrate. And then I have gone around and around and around sewing this knit fiber that I've spent years doing. So I'm in the process of making even larger one, a 7.5 foot in diameter ring to add to this piece for the show at Reese Museum in this year.
Wow.
This is sackcloth. This is
That's
so this is the
yeah.
little piece that I made at the museum. And then It is also sewing pattern paper all pieced together, and then I've embroidered, not elaborate stitching, but I've done stitching throughout the entire piece. And so instead of going over it with color and with watercolor, I've brought color into it through with the thread, with the embroidery floss.
Yeah, that's a
So-
beautiful image. It almost looks like it's like a state map of a
ma-
desert state.
Yeah, many
Or
people think
something.
like, and some people have said it looks like mass transit maps. It's an interesting piece because also the light plays through it as it shines
Mhm.
through, and it's also an interesting. I witnessed took part a little bit in a conversation between a little girl who might have been 6 and her grandmother. And when this piece was in process, I did a little pop-up at the Film Mechanic, and it was in there. And the little girl, she didn't know. I mean, yes, of course, when you're young, you're not going to know necessarily what sewing patterns are, but it became clear that she hadn't really put together where clothing comes from. So and then the grandmother was saying, "Oh my God, this really takes me back." And so I found it was this process is it's very interesting to hear people's memories of their experiences, and then
story.
and then to share it with a child who, you know, we need to continue explaining to people, young small people, how things are made, where things come from. Yeah.
It also kind of looks like skin.
Ooh.
Right?
Yeah, I see that now.
But then clothing is your second skin.
Right.
Right?
Parchment.
Mhm. Yeah.
Like parchment.
So, and this is just a final picture of the museum. So,
Wow.
things that are in there.
Fabulous.
So that's what I've been up to.
Wow, you've been up to a lot.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any quick questions?
What
Before we...
fabric, I mean, the prior one, the sewing.
It's about 9 feet by 8 feet. And I felt like it was really big. And then I hung it in the museum, and I was like, oh, because I didn't
It's
feel,
amazing
yeah,
how fast
yeah.
places can be.
Yeah, so the corrugate, I just call it corrugate, with the reverse piece, that well, I had to shrink it down a little bit to reconfigure it because the hanging point it wasn't going to fit. So it came down to 13.5 feet, but that actually felt like it filled the space, because, it's all relative.
Well, you have to
Perspective.
work your way
Yeah.
up to filling like the turbine hole and the tape on it.
There, I'm getting there. Right. I need a whole slew of interns and volunteers for that. Yeah.
Oh,
So,
right.
well, thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you for inviting
much.
me to be part of this, and
Yeah.
thank you all for coming. And
So, and where can we find you? Like for anyone who's watching this
Oh.
recording later and they want to
Okay.
find your work,
well, let's see.
where to find you?
You can find, let's see, my Instagram is ML Sawyer at art, ML Sawyer art.
Okay.
And my website is mlsawyer.com.
Okay.
And I say Sawyer, but it's Sawyer, like Tom. And if you're in Asheville and want to get over to the mall, you can see one of my works there. And Gallery Core is the space downtown that I was referring to that has 3 of my 7-foot abstract figure sculptures. And if anyone wants to be in touch with me, my email is my name, Molly Sawyer, at mac.com. So if you want to be on my mailing list, I don't inundate people, but I do try to let people know what's going on, those who have expressed interest. So
Cool.
just let me know if you want to stay in
Excellent.
touch.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome.
All right. Well, Kurt, are you ready for the hot seat?
All right, I'm gonna close me up.
Okay.
Hope I don't. Are we done? Okay.
So come
Okay.
and sit here to start
Okay,
with.
that one too. That was my approach to this.
Yeah. Okay.
Vivian, there's room for you. Yeah. And for Molly, there's room for one more. Be together.
All right, so next in the hot seat is Kurt Cloninger. And
You can ask me what I've been up to.
yeah, so I'm gonna ask, well, first of all, I'm gonna ask you like to contextualize yourself within your field of work and within the Asheville community. And then we'll go from there.
Okay. I teach new media, which is an open, vague thing, but that's good because then it can be whatever you want it to be. At UNC Asheville, I live in Canton. We have lived here for about going on 25 years. I'm from South Alabama, the exotic regions. And I teach some history and theory of new media, and then I teach in the interactive track, some as video, animation, and interactive. And so I've made internet art. That was sort of maybe my first art community, but I've always done music, and then my research is related to my studio practice. So what I would talk about now is sort of like the book I'm heading toward writing, and then the studio practice that's related to the book.
Yeah, so I've always known you to be like very conceptual as an artist, like, and the thing that I've seen, and it's not so much necessarily based on a medium per se, but it's more about the concept, and then whatever medium can foster or house that concept the best. So
Yeah, and I would say, I mean, my son, my sons, I have 5 children, so my 4th child is applying to do theater at the School of the Arts, the North Carolina School of the Arts. So in his description, he was like, my mother's a dancer and my father's a performance artist. And I was like, all right, my son thinks he thinks I'm a performance artist. But yeah, not to get too theoretical or philosophical, although that is my way, and I'm not sorry for it.
True.
But yeah, there's a process theory of Alfred North Whitehead where he sort of thinks of objects as ongoing events that have sort of decided to continue in a certain direction or move in a different direction. So there's a way to think that an art object is an event, and or he calls them actual entities, but sometimes he calls them actual occasions. And he uses this word entity and occasion interchangeably
to describe an object.
But in a way, yeah, even if you're in front of an object, you are having an event, a time-based event experience with the object.
Yeah, absolutely.
But anyway, yeah, so I do think these latest ones have been about audio waves.
And then also like how much are you kind of involved within the local community? Obviously, as a teacher, you're involved with your students here, but you also do quite a lot of presentations around the Asheville area.
I don't know.
Collaborations.
I will do collaborations. You got to be in a band if you're a performance person. You don't have to be, but so I'm in a Zoom group called Utterings. And now our friend, we were 5 and one of us recently passed away, so we processed all that, but now we are 4. But there's one in Brussels, one's in well, now we're 5 because I don't count myself. No, we're 4. Because Daniel passed. Okay. So yeah, one in the Netherlands, one in Brussels, and one in
oh, excellent. So
Portugal.
that's the international project.
Yeah, and so this is not a Helene story, but it's not really a COVID story. Like we were always performing online, then COVID happened and everybody thought, hey, you can do stuff online. And we were like, yes, you can.
You'd already been doing it.
But to do Zoom performances, we blindfold ourselves and we utter for different durations of time. And the idea is to sort of invent something that is between a language or is it singing? And we've explored lots of different things. So we got to do one of these in Brussels this summer in person. It was our first time in person. So we're in the room still. We were all blindfolded, and it was just. But a lot of that is the artifacts of the Zoom compression algorithm and how it gets it wrong, and sort of being in dialogue with that and letting that medium have its own agency as a kind of collaborator with you. And then the other thing, I'm in a band, I guess, with Jeff Arnell. He plays drums. He's really good. And so we play places, and I play in that band. I play modular synthesizers and semi-modular synthesizers, and he plays the drums.
Yeah.
Then we start collaborating with
And you guys were at Big Ears a couple of years ago.
we were, that's
Yeah.
right. We started collaborating with a bassoon, an experimental bassoonist from Atlanta. You know, that old chestnut. You know how they are. But anyway, she's really cool. She uses pedals, and so she gets these sort of non-bassoony sounds out of this bassoon. And so, yeah, I think we're playing in Philadelphia or Pittsburgh with her coming up. So that's fun. But yeah, that's been a thing with Jeff. And we started doing that, I think, during COVID, sending tapes back and forth, and then you play live, yeah. But yeah, so this thing is going to be like, oh man, it's going to be me just going. So do you want to release me?
Go, absolutely.
I'm going to do best I can. I'm going to try to make sense.
Yeah, tell us what you've been
okay.
up to.
Okay,
Kurt.
so well, this is a book that came out in 2021. It's my last book, or the last book I wrote. So I've been writing it for like about 10 years, and it's the process philosophy aforementioned, and then this kind of theology that's called negative theology, and then a flavor of quantum mechanics that is decoherence, because when you write an art theory book, you've got to talk about all those things. So anyway, I'll pass this around.
Yeah, put that
And
up
so,
to the screen.
yeah, that's, and then we'll
as
go.
well.
Okay, so
Is
then
it backwards on the screen?
it might be, but that's okay.
You
You can press a button, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, so then we'll just keep going. And so then to say, what's the next book going to be? And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to hit another home run. And I bit off this big giant chunk of stuff that was, the title of this book was called, the title of this book is called Some Ways of Making Nothing, Apophatic Apparatuses in Contemporary Art. And then the next one was going to be Becoming Whatever. And then the subtitle, because you got to have a subtitle, was Modulated Signals, Modulated Bodies. And it was going to be about post-humanism and audio modular synthesis. And so these were books that started off this research. I failed, by the way. So this is a bestiary of the Anthropocene. These are the post-human stuff. This one is called Inflashed Ecologies of Entities and Beings.
I love the way it's backwards when you see it.
And this one's sort of textured. But these are people sort of thinking post-human, like entangled with ecologies, how humans don't stop at the edge of their body, and that these things. I'll just keep going. But anyway, and then it's also going to be related. This is the Journal of the London Institute of Pataphysics. If y'all know Alfred Jarry and pataphysics, yeah, I won't even. But yeah, it's like he says as far as physics, as far as metaphysics is from physics, pataphysics is not far from metaphysics. So that's easy to but that was too much. is what it was. So what I did was I gave up on that book because there was just no way I was gonna write it. So then the thing that emerged from all that was uh, a book about distortion. So that's what my book's gonna be on now. It's gonna be called right now, My Way to Distortion.
That's the one you're actually writing now.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
the real
like
book.
one that you're
Yeah,
in the
hence
middle of
hence
writing.
all this, or I'm
Okay.
at the beginning of writing. And so so the idea with distortion then becomes a sine wave is a smooth, clear tone. And then when the waves get jaggy, it sounds sharp or distorted. And so you could say distortion is a mistake, but it's a mistake based on some expectation of normal, like what normal might sound. So within the last, I guess, 2 years, my kids are all like, Dad, you're probably autistic. You need to get diagnosed. And I was like, okay, and I was. So I'm diagnosed as level 1 autistic. I'm supposedly highly functioning. That's fun. So this book is called Is This Autism? And so part of the book that I'll write about distortion would be to approach distortion from the perspective of, can there be a wrong sound? Is there a wrong way to behave socially? Is there a right way to roll in the world and a wrong way to roll in the world? Or does a majority just have hijacked something and then decided that that was normal? Okay. And so here's this book. It's great.
Interesting.
Okay. And so then the books that then wind up being on the current roster, a classic, Gilles Deleuze, Difference in Repetition. This is still French philosophy, but it's still related to the normal and the different. They call it pure difference or difference differing. This is Derrida, but like, is different different because it's different from some baseline normal? In which case the whole universe is wired to concern itself with normal, and then you just measure difference from the normal. Or is there no baseline normal and everything is just different than every other thing?
Yeah.
But
And
relativity.
so this is called difference and repetition. All right. Okay, then audio ones. Noise music, a history. So when you get into distortion, there's this whole genre of music called noise music. Merzbow is the Japanese Jedi of that. Swans, Sacrifice and Transcendence. Do y'all know this band, Swans?
Uh-huh.
They're just like New York distortion. It's so distorted, it's almost like worship. Yep. Okay. We don't need to talk about this one. Ooh,
We don't.
Pauline Oliveira's Quantum Listening.
Yeah.
She's great.
Pauline.
Ooh, this one is called Monolithic Undertow in Search of Sonic Oblivion. So this one is about drone music. My t-shirt is a drone band. This band has huge amplifiers, way larger than the one I brought. I got to see him in Tennessee in a cave. Have y'all been to that?
Oh,
Okay.
that cave.
And so it's just, you have to wear ear plugs. They have to wear earplugs. Everybody at the concert is wearing earplugs, and it vibrates your bones. And so you feel it and it washes over you. That's this band. Okay.
That they had that at the cave because it messed with the structure. It's like the solid.
They're not that powerful.
The vibrations would like
Yeah,
rattle them.
We're only halfway to the back here.
and then this is these are just like guitar pedal
There you go.
distortion books about guitar pedals. So you got to have some of those. Here's another book about distortion guitar pedals. These are vintage distortion guitar pedals. Okay. Oh, another guitar pedal book because you can't have enough coffee table books about guitar pedal. Okay. Then I got interested in
You get back a while too.
media as well.
Been to some shows with.
Yeah.
and
So
It's a rabbit.
this is a weird one. This is called bone music. So in Eastern Europe, they wanted to listen to rock and roll. during the Cold War, but they weren't supposed to listen to rock and roll, and they couldn't buy any real vinyl. So they started making vinyl records on old X-rays. It
Wow.
turns out you could take X-rays, and so this is called bone music. It's got
Okay.
pictures of these wonderful. So they're listening to these real lo-fi Elvis and Beatles songs
Yeah.
on
sure.
X-rays. And then these are, this one is called High Bias, the distorted history of the cassette tape. So this is about cassette tapes and that sort of lo-fi munging up of
Wow,
sound.
that's really cool.
And then this is Tape Leaders. These are British,
Phone record.
like people who worked for the BBC in the 70s making TV soundtrack music, but got really into synthesizers and tape manipulation experiments. And so, oh, this is one called, this is the last one, book.
Like,
This is the history of the history of turntable design. So this is all record players from like 1897 on. Oh, and there's some great ones, 50s and 60s ones. So,
very, very.
sorry, that was a heavy one. So with my band, with my friend Jeff, we recorded music, and this is a CD. So we put out music and we recorded the music we played. The music is distorted, or at least my part of it is. And then you put it on a CD, and a CD is supposed to like accurately represent an inaccurate, messed up sound. Does that make sense? So in a way, it would be like some theater person performing insanity. And they would have to clearly be sane, unless they're method actors. They'd have to clearly be in their right minds in order to emulate accurately insanity. And that's CDs. Even if you're Metallica and you're making a distorted sound, it's going to accurately represent that distortion. It doesn't break on its way to you. It cans the breakage and then accurately gives you that breakage.
Gives you what happened
Right.
in that moment.
But
Are these good songs?
A genesis of distortion. It's really a modern phenomenon.
it depends on how you want to define it, but there was a rock and roll track where in 1958 a channel on a Neve recording board didn't work right, and they liked the way that sounded, so they left it in. That was that type of distortion. All these people turning up their amplifiers to fill stadiums got distortion accidentally because they were overdriving their tube amplifiers. That's what this thing is.
There was also a broken cone in a recording section in the 50s as well. So there's no, we don't.
That's right.
There is no first, we don't know.
There's the Velvet Underground likes to and the Stooges liked to cut their speakers.
Yeah.
So the speaker cone itself was rattling. And then the big pop version was the guitar track in Can't Get No Satisfaction,
Yeah.
which was like a pedal that they made to make that sound. But you have a bunch of people trying to get louder, and they're not loud enough. A guitar in a jazz orchestra can't compete with a saxophone. So then they make amplifiers, and then they get that flavor distortion.
It seems to me, I'm thinking about the history of music and musical instruments and all of that, and it seems to me that the phenomenon of distortion is common and available to any instrument. And when you're not doing it right, this goes back to the normal thing.
Right.
But then people start doing things and they like how that sounds, like even with vocal fry or and some of these things become cultural norms.
I would say so, and I would say the things I think of are like tube and throat singing, where you get the second. That's distortion to me. A reed, when you play reedy on a saxophone, that's distortion to me. When a guitar buzzes out, doesn't quite fret right, that's an kind of an analog distortion, yes. And then there become these genre-based conventions. you've never heard so many nerd people talk about the right kind of distortion as like speed metal people. It's like they're talking about how to make the proper tea. They got to get that crowd
like
just
that
right,
analogy.
and it's so precious. And so then it moves away from what might be what I'm interested in, and tonally is overtones, which has to do with kind of letting the instrument improvise with you. You hit a state where the amplifier or your system, pedals, amplifier, whatever, is giving you something you can't quite control. And then in real time live, you dialogue with it or collaborate with it improvisationally. You're writing your system. Where the modern way is to master your system, even if you get it distorted. You get the distortion just right. And so I'm very interested in, well, kind of letting materials be materials. And well, then how do they connect out to history? How do they connect to a body? If you give them their own agency and let them in, then they start doing things. So this is vinyl. So I thought of all the stuff Jeff and I recorded, what would sound good on vinyl? And there was a certain thing. I started buying records, but it wasn't just every record I liked, because it's like, I don't think I really need this pop song or this pop album on vinyl, but this one distorted album would be great on vinyl, or this one drone based cello album would be great on vinyl. So it turns out there's this sort of music that when the tone sort of starts pushing the limits of the medium that's trying to preciously contain it and convey it. So to get the needle to even vibrate a little, to get the vinyl to perform, to get the vinyl to cause the needle to do a live performance.
Right, yeah.
So this is this one.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I knocked off water. Okay, so I'm done talking. But
Okay.
the reason I brought the amplifier was, gosh, after all of this talking, wouldn't it be great to have this experience that I keep describing here in this room? And so it may sound wrong. Things may start vibrating. It's not that loud. It turns out to get this thing to happen, it doesn't need to happen loud if you set your system up to be overdriven at that low volume threshold.
Uh-huh.
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm keep
Cool.
going. I've
Go
got
for
2
it.
minutes to do.
Go for it.
Okay.
Go,
And I'll sort of
take as much time as you want.
I'll demo.
Do you wanna, I'm turning the computer around.
Okay.
Kurt, before you, could you demonstrate for us an utter?
Oh, gosh.
Uttering.
It really is different. Sometimes they're
Watch that chair.
sometimes they're musicy and thank you. And drony, sometimes they're more
You
like
can see
linguistic. It's never, it's rarely a language, although we're
pedal.
speaking. We all have our natural, our native tongues, and half of them are trilingual, the people I'm collaborating with. So I can do this.
It's not butter.
No,
It's
this is me speaking in tongues. I'm a charismatic Christian. I speak in tongues. Don't get freaked out. Here we go. It's kind of like this. This is a languagey one of it, but it can be like that. Moving throat singing or things like this stuff. That's that. That's me doing that thing. That's not exactly what we do. That's a different thing. But what we do, sometimes I'll fall back into that, but it's a lot of listening, like you were in a jazz band. But it's extra, it's extra, or supposed to be like to exceed genres. So we're not listening as if we all are jazz musicians. We're really listening to see, is it heading toward semiotic language? Is it heading toward almost like poppy, explosive, percussive tones? Is it heading toward drone and harmony and
You're responding to that.
And
of the process.
and everybody hears it different because the whole way the Zoom works, it's out of sync. And so, and what I'm hearing might not be what everyone else is hearing. And when we record it, one machine records it, but I reckon if we recorded it on all the machines, it would all. So it's this thing that just, it's almost like you can't lock it down. We've tried to get our settings to be the best and eliminate all the noise. But what Zoom thinks you're in a corporate meeting. So its algorithm is to silence everybody but the person talking most loudly. And so if you're collaborating with four other people, it's constantly trying to squash, which you don't want. But you can set it, there's a way to.
Zoom a little bit as if it's a medium.
Because you
itself.
can't help, you have to, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what was weird playing live in Brussels. But on the street outside of this, atelier where we were doing the performance, there were streetcars going by. So like the John Cage echo chamber thing where you can't ever get it quiet. So you might as well start collaborating with the hum of the air conditioning because you can't get it quiet.
Exactly.
So
Super interesting.
so this is just this. I guess the oh, I know, I had it stand by. This instrument or this amplifier, it's called the Bassman amp. This is 1964, and it turns out it wasn't very good at being a bass amp, but guitar players really liked it. So like Neil Young loves this thing. But I grew up, I got one for free in the 70s, and I tried to play the bass through it, and I got distortion. And it wound up being this sort of tube amp is square wave distortion. The waves get sawed off at the top. So this is just me playing through it without any of the pedals. Right, that's a. Okay, so this is a distortion pedal, and you'll hear a little bit of distortion. I'll add more distortion just so you can get a feel for what this pedal does. So that distortion, but it's still clean, clear distortion. That's the sort of the clear representation of distortion. It represents distortion. Okay, so now the weirdness starts. This pedal is called Misty Cave. You can see why. This is a delay pedal made by someone who lives in Asheville. These are analog pedals. Okay, so now this is going to add a little more crush. I'll do low one just then. Okay, now is where things are gonna get destroyed. I'm always afraid I'm physically going to break this. And that's the edge at which here we go. Okay. Like, can you see it physically moving air? That is the end of my talk.
We did it.
And the crowd goes wild. Awesome.
And it was such a, like 10 years ago, maybe I would have been like, oh, it's such a try-hard thing to bring my big amplifier. It'll look like I'm trying to be cool.
So the funny
But I'm so glad.
The funny thing is that Zoom is suggesting that I set up audio, professional audio and audio settings.
Right, but even then, all Zoom's gonna be able to do is try to represent
Right.
the breaking.
I know.
But maybe it'll add its own new breaking. Anyway.
It's pretty fabulous.
Thank y'all for indulging my. So that's what I'm up to, distortion.
Does anyone have any questions? Quick questions before we go on to Roger? Anyone have any quick questions?
That is the module.
I wonder when I haven't.
I think
Is it a close?
Yeah,
I
that's
can
a
give you
two.
one. Do you want one?
I'm getting a closed storage.
That's the one I have.
Yeah,
I'm trying to sell my other
I
one.
just bought a VicX.
Oh, no, I don't know what that is.
You know what that is?
Yeah. We're talking modular synthesizer nerd.
Modular synthesis. Yeah.
But that's the way I have a EMS
No, nothing.
it's that oscillator, the harmonic oscillator, but I send it into the Chloe.
Yeah.
Credit up.
Well, when I saw you and Jeff play it, that was what fascinated me.
That all that stuff. Yeah, and again with those modular synthesizers, they're not really made to distort, but
Well,
you can
we're
make
talking about a
this.
module that does distortion.
That's my shoegaze module.
I'm not sure.
That's my jam.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's in my head.
Okay, Roger, take
Getting
the hot
hot.
seat.
Oh, boy.
Take the hot seat.
Yeah, this is gonna be.
My images.
Interesting.
Okay, has everyone got the attention span to continue directly? All right.
Like the peanut gallery.
Mm.
This is- oh.
The library galleries.
All right, so this is Roger Munch. And Roger has had some technical difficulties with things that were going to be on a presentation on PowerPoint. But we're going to be analog, and then in the next session he's going to come back and do like it's going to be
Yeah.
split into two different
Yeah, I'm gonna
sections.
try-
In we'll have you back in the last session.
yeah, I'll try to recuperate
Yeah.
stuff, you know.
So, but we've got the analog version here. All right, so Roger,
Yes.
who are you?
Oh my, that's a good question. I'm still trying to find out myself. You
Okay.
know, I think I'm reverting back to childhood a lot more,
Mhm.
which I highly value. I highly suggest that for everyone. When people ask me, what have you been up to? Or who are you? I a lot of times start laughing and I just say, I'm complicated. Because from day to day, that person who I am can kind of start to change into something else.
Okay,
Yeah,
so contextualize yourself within the realm of mainly your art forms and your involvement in the arts, but maybe with a little bit of background about what you came out of, like different career paths before that, but just summarize very briefly, just so that we know how you arrived at this place.
Okay, and
And how you came to Asheville also.
5,000 words or
Yeah,
less,
just
right?
the summary, just blah, blah, blah,
Okay,
blah.
so yeah, all right, so I started making things when I was very young by watching other people because I had no money to buy that stuff. And a lot of times didn't even have the tools to make it with, but I would just watch other people and do it. So when I was a kid, I would make my own bows and arrows. I'd find feathers around and collect them and find street pieces of wood in the woods and make my arrows and all of that. I watched the neighbor down the street with his father. I didn't have a father pretty much. So I watched the father showing the son how to make a kayak. And I was kind of on the fence like this, observing, and I decided, well, I could do that. And I did it all out of scrap stuff that I got at a picture frame factory, and I got canvas from somewhere, I don't know where, put the whole thing together, and how I sealed it so it didn't leak. Well, it was in August, so I scraped up the melted tar off the roads and put it on there. That kayak, I used that kayak for about 3 years before an old buried stump ripped the whole bottom out. But it cost me nothing. And
So that it really summarizes like
yeah, the rest, as they say, is history.
how you function.
So I did a lot of different things. I was in the tree business, I was in a lot of different things. And eventually got into like machine shops and tool and die and all the modern equipment, CNCs and all of that. But I've been a practicing artist my entire life. Nights and on weekends while trying to make a living during the day at these other jobs, which turned out taught me a lot of, was able to learn a lot of skills that I brought into my creative life.
Yeah.
So I've got to a point where I can make almost anything. If I have the tools for it, I can almost make anything I can think of.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of happened. And also I've written poetry since probably high school. Never really paid much attention to it, but it was just something I had to do. And meanwhile, so I grew up in New Jersey, Morristown, Morris Plains, Jersey, and I moved here. I've been here about 10 years, I think now. And I've written, I don't even know, I have to count them, but somewhere around a dozen books of poetry, and some other kinds of, maybe 10 books of art that show, they put my collections of art together and put it in different books. I brought a couple with me. This one, I think I gave you a copy of.
Yeah.
This one's called Children's Poems for Adults. And when I get to do this thing for real, later,
For real.
I'll explain that the covers on these books, this one's, I'll pass it around when I'm done with it. But the covers themselves always had a story. I would never know what kind of cover am I gonna, I do the whole book myself. I design the book covers and everything. So the covers always have a story. So like this one here, when I pass it around, you'll see it's Children's Poems for Adults. And it's just basically a picture of this concrete with this little, like, kind of sleepy moon face here. By the way, the moon tonight, right? Oh my God, you gotta spend some time looking at that. It's the, well, anyway, so I was down River Arts District and I was walking in one of the art studio buildings, and I looked down right as you're walking in the doorway. I looked down and I saw this, and I'm always thinking, I look at every little thing and I say, oh, that's cool. And so I took a picture of it, not knowing it, and it ended up on the cover of this book. So anyhow, I'll give you an idea of
Sample.
yeah. say in the beginning, I would like to thank the beauty, innocence, and wide-eyed wonder of the childhood experience and of the children around us who remind us of such a time. This author has never let his inner child fade, and it is his hope that something in this book will help return the reader back to their own special childhood times. So I have, for instance, and by the way, this is the first time I ever did anything on, I'm a traditional artist, so I do painting, drawing, sculpture, and all that. And I've never done on an iPad before. But for this one, I did, it was the first time I did on iPad. So here's one, I'll pass it around, but it's got a picture of this little boy standing there, this little guy standing amongst all these tall people. And the thing says August, who, by the way, is my grandson's name. And August, at only 2 years old, reaches to be picked up and consoled. For he was surrounded and begs to get out of this forest of legs. So, you know, and then let's see what other one I put aside here. Oh, this one, just crazy. So it's a picture of a girl's face with a fish in her mouth, and pass it around. Sarah dove in the water with a swish, came up in her mouth with a fish. I mean, you know. And by the way, I don't usually do this stuff, but and then there's a picture here. Imagine that. Amazingly, Jim caught the storm's very last raindrop off the brim of his hat.
Oh, we'll show the picture.
Oh, yeah. But anyhow, that was very different.
Which one was it?
And you can't predict, you know, a lot of my poetry is kind of more like on a spiritual realm or something, and nature, very connected to nature.
Catching the last raindrop off the brim of his hat.
Yeah. We'll pass this around so you can go look at it. So another project I did, and this was I'll read a little thing on it. But the cover of this one, and it's called the Imaginables, right? And that's a mask that I bought in a real far out tiny little museum in Mexico. And I looked at it and I said, "That's for sale?" It's like, man, the energy and power is like, whoa. And I bought that about 25, 30 years ago in Mexico or something. And of course, I have feathers all over my house. I stick them in things. Just so I'll just read a little bit here, and this would be kind of thing that we'll have to. Where is it? It was once in a while I like to give myself a challenge. And so in this case, I'll just read the thing here and I could pass it around. But so the Imaginables. Welcome to a world of unexplainable encounters occurring through unexplainable results having uncontrolled beginnings. This series of drawings arrived by following the path of chance, invited by risk, play, openness, and a need for challenge and surprise. With a blank piece of paper in front of me and pencil in hand, I sat with the intent of emptying my mind of any thought, of any ideas or goals of any kind. The only plan I had was to empty my mind of all thought. Once this was accomplished, I would very spontaneously draw a few lines without looking at the paper and then stop. I required that this drawing process occur within 1 second or less. This was to ensure that my conscious mind would have no chance at all to start thinking about what I was doing or how I was doing it. The laying down of lines became just a burst of energy, resulting sometimes in my ripping the paper. In formal circles, this is often called automatic drawing or whatever, but I was not concerned about such thoughts. Often I would just move on to the next sheet of paper and repeat the process, stacking up the pages without looking at any of what I had done. Eventually, I would pick up each paper and just stare at the few created lines. turning it this way and that, letting my imagination start to see something that wanted to come into existence. The rule that I gave myself was that whatever I ended up seeing and drawing had to include those original lines that were responsible for leading me toward what I saw. None of the original lines were allowed to be erased or altered in the final drawing. At this stage, the final visual idea was drawn in pencil line only. Having never done art this way before or having such strange results, I decided that completing these drawings in color would best be done digitally. So this was my second digital work. Being used to traditional painting, drawing, sculpture, and printmaking mediums, this digital art world is something very new to me, but I found it an appropriate choice for this creative endeavor. Anyhow, and as you go through this visual cacophony, please note that the titles given to each drawing, they were given to me from each drawing during the process of my getting to know them. One last thing, I was not on any mind-altering substances during this process, right? So just and by the way, in this book, in the back, you'll be able to see by page number, you'll see the original
I don't know if you can see it.
the original lines that were drawn. So you see very rudimentary, and think about it in 1 second or less, right? You know, like that. So here's one that ended out, I call it the hatchling. Yeah. And let's see, I get kind of skip. Angel of the Sun. And I had no idea where this stuff comes from. Let's see if I can back that up a little. Yeah, like that. This one's a lot of fun. This one's called Columbus Discovers America. It's I'll pass this around. I won't show them all. I just want to show a few that are fun. Let's see. Well, this one was interesting. Cat's Cradle.
Great.
Yeah. They vary considerably. That one's fun. But to a certain extent, you know, some of them have a bit of fun to it, cartoonish. Dream of Offering, this one's more like surrealistic, I guess you could say. And this is so different. I mean, I've done very realistic kind of drawings, you know, so this
We
is.
do your part too, your
Yeah.
show pictures of your sculptural work as well.
Yeah.
You
I redid,
pass that
oh yeah,
around.
pass it around. I redid my artist website since I've been here.
Mhm.
But I haven't had a chance to put any of the artwork I've done since I've been here up on the website, so
Okay.
be mindful of that. But it's just rogermunch.com, and I have a lot of probably 10 years worth of sculpture on there, and my bird drawings, which I think you saw, and yeah, that's and a whole series of monotype prints.
Yeah.
So and but I was actually going to start.
Yeah, I wanna talk to you, or for you to talk about, you know, going back to, you know, a question about your relationship to community.
Yeah.
Since you've been here, I mean, already, you know, when you came to Asheville, you really embedded yourself into the artistic community and have been like a stalwart of support for other artists. here and really made such an effort, personal effort to go out, meet people, see what they're doing, get into their work, support them. And you've been so humble about your own work as an artist and such an advocate for supporting other artists. So I'm going to blow your trumpet and there for that, because you really
Well, it's
really
something
do
I've come
that.
in touch with the more I've been here in Asheville area, but
And then especially in the past year since Hurricane Helene, you've really got in there with hands-on, help. So yeah, go into a little bit of what you've been doing with
part
that.
of me, part of the artwork I've been doing is in my relationship with other people. So that's not something you can put a show on or, hang it on the wall or anything. So I'll get to the storm in a minute, but I started out by volunteering at the Asheville Art Museum, and in an effort to try to, especially when I first got here, I felt like there was a real need to break down the walls. I felt like it was too insular. And so I stuck with that for about 4 years, and on event committees and stuff like that. And then even talking to people like at Starbucks and stuff like that, it's very interesting when you're open to people and look them in the eye, call them by name, or just acknowledge their existence. What can happen? So I've met a lot of people where I would ask what their interests are, this and that, and if it had to do with art or whatever, I would say, let me see some of it. And sometimes I donate materials to them, especially if they're young people. But anyway, when the storm hit, I couldn't get back here. I was out of state, out of the country, and the airport was closed and everything. And I finally got back to Newark Airport and got stuck there. And finally they said, "Oh, there's a plane leaving." Really? And I got on the plane, and there's hardly anybody on the plane. And I'm like, they're going to cancel this flight because they're not going to fly with like a dozen people on the plane. It turned out they did go into the airport here, and the reason why they took off anyway is because they were all FEMA people.
Yeah,
Except for
right. So they had to come.
my wife and I. So I got back, and I immediately went down. We were okay, our house and everything, no electric, no this and that and everything. But I immediately went down to the River Arts, and I started taking some pictures, and then I sent those pictures out of state and to friends. And to make a long story short, that I've been busy about that for the last year since the storm. And what happened was I started making connections through friends in other states, and they started to donate stuff. And I said, especially music related and art related. And so I became a kind of a distribution point. So people started to send stuff down, and it was a lot of stuff. And everything you can imagine: violins, banjos, acoustic guitars, electric guitars, bass guitars, amplifiers, microphones, all that stuff. A lot of it I brought down to the guitar bar. I know those guys pretty good. Unfortunately, they're unable to reopen that location. But so that's been going on. The last delivery I made was the last 2 deliveries I made was up to Marshall, and I know a number of people up there, and delivered mostly music related stuff up there. And so I so it became that thing, but it was really good in a way because I got to know where the needs were, and I got to meet a lot of really cool people, and just do my part, I guess. But I'm trying to think of what else. But yeah, so
And there were a lot of art material supplies as well, actually that
Oh.
you had, or that you rounded up as well,
Yeah.
like that you had that you weren't using, or you managed to
I
get
don-
donated.
I donated a lot of stuff.
and put those.
I donated a lot of tooling and stuff like that to the STEAM studio, because I volunteered there for about a year and training some people and stuff. And then I donated a lot of my own stuff. I realized I had, because I taught art and everything, I had a lot more materials than if I spent like 18 hours a day for the rest of my life. I probably wouldn't ever use it all. So I went through everything and donated. But some of the stuff, to give you an idea, I got stuff from California, from Indiana, from Illinois, and some of this stuff, individual items were up to about $800 in value.
Wow.
So and it wasn't like leftover garbage stuff. People were emptying their garage. This was really good stuff. And then I've been mentoring some students over at UNCA for about 5 years now. I have a new gal that's just a freshman. And so I put my life into that, their interests and stuff, and get them going in any way I can get them going. Because I have a broad interests in a lot of things: science, nature, birds, art, music. I play instrumental fingerstyle guitar, which I just go by ear. I don't know how to read music or anything. And play Native American flute, harmonica, it's just whatever you can make sound with, By the way, I just ordered one of those units you had last time that you brought here. Oh, yeah.
That Richard
I
had.
gotta build it.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
You see my post on my website?
yeah, I did. Oh, yeah. So I'm out of control, with the art and I've built stuff too that I didn't usually build in previous years. Like I've built some pretty fancy one-off type of boxes and stuff that one looks like a 14th century chest, all out of exotic woods and stuff. And I made one for my grandkids, so I'll get into that next time. But the other thing too is I've bumped into people even at like Starbucks and stuff, and I found out like one gal, I was still in touch with her. She was interested in art. She wasn't sure what she's going to do and this and that, and she got all inspired, and I got inspired with her, and I gave her some stuff to try out different art materials. Had her over our house a couple of times, and we looked at each other's art, all that kind of. So I'm kind of, some of my art making has to do with my interaction with people. So that's
Spontaneous.
yeah, see what and so
Yeah, and Roger has been like invaluable here to the CCC. Like he's really been there right from the beginning and helped me like literally create this space. So
yeah, I've been known as that guy.
he's
I'm that guy.
He's the Center for Connection and Collaborations, that guy.
Yeah, we have the same. We've had the same vision about bringing people together of all kinds of different, like a dancer together with I mean, what you wouldn't expect to bring about unexpected, beautiful new things to happen. Plus the social networking. People, the community brings the community together more. So we've been doing that a long time.
Yeah,
Put
like
new roof on
about
the
5 years.
garage
5 years.
yeah,
Since
5,
I've
6
started
years.
the process.
Yeah,
But anyway, we'll have you back again next time with the pictures that you didn't manage to get on your computer.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
but it's good to just
So, you gotta leave people with something to look forward to, All right, thank you.
Yay. All right, well, I think that pretty much concludes this session. And I see that we have a couple of Zoom people. We've got Ellen, who is also in Asheville, and then we have Uncle Don, who is from Flagstaff, Arizona. Yay! There's a fabulous fabulous community out in Flagstaff who I kind of feel like is a sister city to Asheville in a lot of ways. So
Beautiful.
happy that you're here. Good. Okay, so we're gonna close the session for tonight. And that's good to see everybody. Thank you for joining. And we'll see next week. Next week is who have we got next week? We've got Mark Hassler, we've got Robert Winkler, and we've got Emily Hay.
Every day.
Hey.
He's a lively character.
Oh, you want